Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the outside block piles of Pirate Island, right? And so we've talked about these block piles, right? We talked about the block piles leading from hunter spawn to hider spawn. So we talked about these block piles, and we talked about the block pile at hider spawn, which is this block pile. But now we're going to focus on other block piles, right? And when I say outside block piles, I mean block piles that are not inside of houses. So for instance, if we head over in this direction, we have another block pile over here. And so let's talk about it, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about outside block piles. So let's talk about this block pile. I like that. That was good. Now, if you see a block pile heading on the outside of this block pile, what's going to happen is you're going to see two blocks in a row. You should never see two blocks in a row in this block pile. Notice two furnaces in a row, basically, right? It could be a bookshelf as well. Again, two blocks in a row, that's fake. Again, if you look at it from this point of view, it's two blocks in a row, right? If you look at it from this point of view, right? Again, two blocks in a row, that's fake. Right? In the other case, right here, two blocks in a row, that's fake. Again, two blocks in a row, that would be fake. Another thing you sometimes see is if you see two blocks on top of the stack, like this, two blocks on the top of the stack, that would be fake. Notice how we also have a total of two flower pots over here. One flower pot here, and one flower pot here, right? So if you ever see three flower pots, right, for instance, three flower pots, like for instance like this, that would be fake. That's basically it. Heading over here, we have this hay bale stack. I would just be familiar with some of the specific spots, right? For instance, if you look at the front, I'll call this the front of the stack, right? If you see three hay bales in a row like that, it's fake. Three hay bales in a row like this, it's fake. If you see a hay bale right here, it sort of looks like a Tetris piece. I like calling them Tetris pieces sometimes. It's good, right? So if you see two hay bales in a row like this right here, it's fake. Sometimes you'll see a hay bale go in this slot. This would be fake. A hay bale on either side of this diagonal piece, that would be fake. And also, if you see a cube of hay bales like this, then this would be fake as well. And I guess in other spots, if you see two hay bales in a row like that. That's basically it for the hay bale stack. Right? We're going to head over here to this block pile now. Some spots you should be familiar with is if you see, for instance, a hay bale in this hole, it's fake. A hay bale in this hole, it's fake. Also, a hay bale in this slot, or a hay bale in this slot is fake as well. Right? Now, some other things is if it's sort of, sort of looks like it's squared off right here. If it's squared off, or again, it's right here, it's squared off. So on either side, right? So we see some of those common things occurring on both the left side and the right side of the stack, right? One hole on the left, one hole on the right. One slot on the left, one slot on the right. No, one squared off on the left, one squared off on the right. Right? You can see it. You also see the possibility of it being squared off right here, or the possibility of it being squared off. I love that word, squared off right here. Love that word. Right? Another thing is if you see it cubed off as well, right? If you see it cubed off, this would be a 2 by 2 by 2 cube of blocks, and this would be fake. That's basically it for this block pile. Heading over here, we approach this outside block pile, and yeah, so you see it's consisting of furnaces, anvils, cauldrons, right? One spot you should be familiar with is if you see a hider hiding in this specific slot, as you can see, hiding specifically right here. Sometimes it could be an anvil or a cauldron or a furnace, right? Either one of them, right? Now notice on the right side of the stack, we see 4 blocks in a row. You should never see 4 blocks in a row on the left side of the stack. For instance, if you see 4 blocks in a row right here, then it's fake. And also if you see 4 blocks in a row right here, then it's fake. Right? Just like for the hay bale stack that we just saw, if you see a block on either side, either here, like on either side of this diagonal piece, that's how you know it's fake. And another spot you should be familiar with is if you see a hider behind the stack right here. So if there's a hider specifically right here, then this would be fake. And that's basically it. guess you'll sometimes see 5 in a row, usually not though. Anyways, that's basically it. I guess you'll also sometimes see 2 blocks on top of the stack, but that's not as common. Going over here, we have this block pile, right? As for this block pile, I'd say it's important that you know, for instance, if you see, usually it might be a melon or a TNT here, in this specific slot. Another spot you should be familiar with is if you see 2 blocks on top of the stack, right? So notice 2 blocks on top of the stack like that would be 50. You'll sometimes see 2 in a row right here as well. Not as common, but you'll sometimes see it. Not all the time though. But that's basically it for this block pile. But we're not going to talk about any of the ships. We're going to talk about the ships and the corresponding block piles associated with the ships in a whole separate video, because there's these very interesting relationships you can draw from when it comes to the ships. So we're going to ignore them for this video. We're going to talk about the outline of the map now. So we've already talked about these flower pots, right? Total of 4 flower pots, but we're going to head in this direction. We have these bookshelves right here. As for the bookshelves, notice this is basically one of our common structures that we should be familiar with. So any deviations for it, for instance, if you see a cube, or not a cube, if you see a square of bookshelves on the bottom of the stack, then it's fake. If you ever see 3 bookshelves surrounding the central bookshelf like this, then it's fake. Right, again, 3 bookshelves surrounding the central bookshelves would be fake. Right? That's really it. Going over here, if you see 2 bookshelves in a row like this, then it's fake. That's basically it for the bookshelves. Right? Now we're going to head over here. As for this, right, you could obviously see a hider hiding on the outline of the map. Right? Obviously you can't see it from this point of view, so it's important that you're familiar with it. Right? Because you can't directly see it. But now let's just talk about some of the block piles in this region, right? We have some flower pots, so I'll start with the flower pots. We have 2 flower pots here. Over here we have 3 flower pots, as you can see, 3 total flower pots if you count them all. And over here we also have a total of 3 flower pots. So basically 2, 3, and 3. I like to just be familiar with the numbers of flower pots. As for the other blocks, right, starting over here, we have some hay bales. If you ever see 3 hay bales in a row, it's fake. Right, sometimes a hay bale right here, it's fake. You see 2 hay bales in a row right here, right, the hay bale leaning up against the wooden cube, and that's fake. Right? But now let's talk about these melons. As for the melons, if you ever see a cube on top of the stack, we love cubes. We see that all the time, and that's fake. You should never see 2 in a row on the right side. You should never see 2 in a row in the back. Right, something like this, or sometimes something like this, that would be fake. Right, and also if you see 3 blocks in a row, basically, right? Normally there's a slot open right here, there's an opening right here, so you see that opening filled, that would be fake. And also if you see 3 blocks on top of the stack, of course, that would be fake. Right, that's basically it. Going over here, we have a bunch of blocks, right? Now really what you should be familiar with, again, there should be an opening right here, but if you see that opening filled, something like this, that would be fake. Some other things to be familiar with is, well, if you ever see 2 in a row on the left side, then it's fake, so 2 in a row, 2 in a row, right? If you ever see 2 in a row on the left side, then it's fake. And the other thing is if you see 4 in a row on the right side, so like 4 in a row on the right side like this, it's fake. Again, 4 in a row on the right side is fake. That's basically it for this block pile. And that's basically it. We're just going to keep heading over here. Again, we're ignoring the ships, so we're ignoring that. Right, but we're going to talk about these melons right now. Now, probably your best way to think about it is the number of melons that are on each layer, right? You have a total of 4 melons in the top layer, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 melons on the top layer. But then on the layer below it, we have a total of 7. So basically it's 4 and 7. So as you can see, if you would count a total of 7 on the bottom layer. So 7 on the bottom layer, 4 on the top layer. Just memorize the numbers 7 and 4. Or 4 and 7. However you want to think of it. So 4 and 7. Again, we're ignoring the ships. Now, notice that we have these trees right here. Hiders actually do have the ability to get on top of these trees, right? I ignored those trees because we talked about that in the video with that house. So hiders can get on top of those trees, of course. But hiders also have the ability to get on top of these trees right here from this building. So you should be familiar with that. Again, we're ignoring these block piles because I associated these block piles with the ship, and we're going to head over here to this block pile, where we have anvils and furnaces. So basically, it's a total of 3 furnaces. And as for the anvils, right, you see 2 anvils in a row right here, then that would be fake. Right, and that's basically it for this. I'm not really sure of any other common spots, to be honest. Forgot them all. I'm just joking. All right. Anyways, now we have bookshelves and cakes. If you see a bookshelf in either one of these 2 spots, or a bookshelf in either one of these 2 spots, right, you have basically stuff like that would be fake. If you have a bookshelf behind the stack like this, it's fake. And also, there should only be a total of 3 cakes here. Just like how there's a total of 3 furnaces over here, there's a total of 3 cakes right here. So you can think of the number 3, right? We love the number 3. Now let's talk about the anvils, right? If you see 2 anvils in a row right here, then that would be fake. Right? If you see 3 anvils in a row, right, usually like something like this, then that would be a fake anvil. Over here we have some flower pots, right? Most common spot for the flower pots is to find a flower pot right here, from what I've seen. So flower pot in this specific spot right here would be fake. If you ever see 4 flower pots on the bottom, this would be a fake flower pot right here. And also there's a total of 3 flower pots on the front of the flower pot stack. So 3 total flower pots in the front of it. Another thing is that you'll also sometimes see flower pots on the edge of the map, like for instance right here. So you can see, it's not super obvious that they're there, so that's why you should be familiar with that. Alright, so heading over here, we have this other block pile, right? This block pile right here. As you can see, we do have some animals, so, sometimes you'll find fake pigs here. Usually it's pigs, not chickens. But really, fake animals, of course, you should be familiar with, right? But also, let's talk about the blocks, more importantly. Starting with the pumpkins, right? We'll keep it simple. Pumpkins are a little smaller, so it's pretty simple with pumpkins. You see a pumpkin in this slot, it's fake, or a pumpkin in this hole, it's fake. It's those 2 specific spots that you really gotta focus on, right? In my opinion, from what I've noticed. As for the melons and the hay bales, right? What are some prominent features, right? There are 3 blocks in a row on top of the stack, so don't worry about those, right? There is 3 blocks in a row on this side of the stack. What you shouldn't see, however, is 4 blocks in a row, which you will sometimes see, right? 4 blocks in a row would mean that there's a fake block. But you also shouldn't see 3 blocks in a row in front of the stack like this. So notice this would be fake. Yeah, you do sometimes see 3 blocks in a row right here, but it's a different shape, right? So this would be fake, right? Only one side of the block piles should have 3 blocks in a row, right? The other sides doesn't have it. That's basically it for this block pile. Right, now let's talk about this area over here. So as for this area, turns out that we have some features going on here. Let's just start by talking about the bookshelves. As for the bookshelves, if you see a bookshelf in this hole, then it's fake. A bookshelf in this slot, then it's fake. Right, and there's a few other spots, right? You could see a bookshelf way behind the stack right here. And also another spot that you should be familiar with is a bookshelf in this specific spot right here. So you should be familiar with those 4 spots. Right? I mean, I guess you also sometimes see a bookshelf on top of this as well, so that too. Right, and therefore I guess you should also be familiar with this spot then, right? Now, if you ever see 3 bookshelves on the very top, something like that, and they're connecting, that would be fake. Okay. Going over here, we have some pumpkins and hay bales. Starting with the pumpkins, you see a pumpkin in this slot, then it's fake. As for the hay bales, you see a hay bale in this slot, right here, then that's fake. 3 hay bales in a row, doesn't happen all the time, but you should be familiar with stuff like this. If you see something that sort of looks like a Tetris piece, then that would be fake. If you ever see 2 hay bales in a row on this side of the stack, that's fake. I guess another thing I forgot to mention about the pumpkins then is, I don't know, yeah, but basically 2 pumpkins in a row like that. Notice that you see the letter T on top of the hay bales. So that's another way you want to think about it, the letter T with the hay bales. Therefore, if you see the letter T affected, something like this, that would be a fake hay bale. Over here we have some TNTs and furnaces. Notice a total of 3 furnaces, right? As for the TNTs, right, some common spots you might see is a TNT in this specific slot, a TNT in this slot, right? Or if you sometimes see 2 TNTs on top of the stack, then that would be fake. That's basically it for that. Going over here, we have some more pumpkins and hay bales, right? I don't know many of the spots over here, to be honest. So I don't know them. Right? I'm not that good at this, so I'm not sure. So what are some things that you should memorize? I honestly don't know, because I honestly never really focused on memorizing this block pile, so I'm not really going to worry about it. Some other things you should be familiar with is hiding underneath the bridge. Hiders can sometimes hide underneath the bridge. And if we head back over here, right, you can't really get underneath the bridge over here though, so right, so we're not going to worry about that too much. Right, I guess another thing I forgot to mention, it's sort of just like the edges. Hiders can hide at the edge over here, so hiders like to hide at the edge, like this, but instead it's flower pots, right? So you should also be familiar with that. Right, now we're going to head back over here and head over here, because you're going to see some very interesting connections, just like we saw over by the over there. Turns out this TNT, these furnaces and TNTs is basically identical to what we saw over there, right? We see 3 furnaces again, right? And the TNTs are the same exact spots as we saw before, right? A TNT in this slot, or a TNT in this slot, or 2 TNTs on top of the stack, right? So same exact spots, and so you should just simply be familiar with it because it occurs again. Turns out you see the identical bookshelf stack over here as well. You see a bookshelf in this hole, then it's fake. A bookshelf in this slot, it's fake. Right? A bookshelf right here. 2 in a row, right? Right? A bookshelf in this specific spot as well is fake. Right? And I guess that other spot that I mentioned was if you see like 3 bookshelves on top of the stack like this, like touching each other, connecting, I said, right? That's basically it. Right, over here with the hay bale stack, hay bales and melons. Now, what I want you to notice is that there's basically 4 sides to the stack. Here you have 2 blocks on this side, 2 blocks on this side, 1 block on this side, and 1 block on this side. Therefore, you should never see 2 blocks on this side, right? 2 in a row would be fake, or if you see 2 in a row right here would be fake. You also shouldn't see 2 blocks on top of the stack like this. That would be fake as well. The other thing is that there's 2 blocks that aren't part of the stack, so I like to think of the number 2. With these beaches, you'll sometimes find hiders over here as well. So now that we've talked about this area, heading over here we have this block pile. But again, I never really memorized this block pile, so we're just going to ignore it. Like, we're just going to pretend it doesn't even exist, right? Because, well, I don't even know that block pile. I like saying that. That was good. And again, we're ignoring the ships, so we're going to be ignoring this, right? There's a total of 3 ships, and so we're just ignoring them all. And then heading over here, again, I never really memorized this. I'm so bad at the game, so I don't know. I'm just joking. I guess one spot you can see, right? Notice how it forms 4 in a row, right? Right, on this side you have 4 blocks in a row, but over here you should never see 4 blocks in a row. So that's one thing you should be familiar with, right? And so that's basically it for this block pile. Again, just like the beach we saw before, if you see a block by this beach over here, then that would be fake. Again, I don't know this block pile. Okay, I like doing that. That was good, right? I don't know this block pile. I don't know it. I have some spots you might see as 2 blocks in a row. I don't actually know this block pile that well, to be honest. So we're just probably going to ignore it. Now this block pile, I'm completely familiar with that. I like saying that. That was good. Because you can break it up into parts, right? You can break it up into parts. Starting with the pumpkins, right? You have, a pumpkin in this slot, then it's fake. Right? But also you have these extra slots with pumpkins, right? For instance, if you see 2 in a row here, or 3 in a row right here, that would be a fake pumpkin. So those are some things that you could catch on. As for the hay bales, sort of looks like, it looks like you have 4 hay bales in the top view of the stack. Same thing with the melons. You have 4 melons in the top view of the stack, right? But in this case, you have 1 melon on the very top, and in this case, you have 2 hay bales on the very top. So that's the difference. As for the anvils, right? Slightly different, right? The anvils, you have the letter Y, right? The letter Y. But you have letter Y with 1 anvil on top of the stack. So if you see the letter Y affected, for instance, like this, that would be fake, right? A letter Y on either side. Or an anvil on either side would be fake as well. And also an anvil right here, right? It affects the letter Y, so that's how you know it's fake. And the TNTs forms a square on the bottom with a TNT on top. Notice how you have a total of 3, not total, but you sort of have actually a total of 5 blocks on top of the stack. You see, you almost have 3 in a row. Well, you should never see a block in between all of this, right? So like 4 blocks in a row, 3 blocks in a row, right? That would be fake. And so that's really the whole idea of this. And honestly, that's basically it. I'm not going to worry about the stack so much because I barely know it, right? I was good. I barely know it. I honestly don't know the block piles of this map super well, so that's why I said it. But that's basically it for the outside block piles, right? And so hopefully this gives you a good idea of what to expect, right, of the outside block piles, right? That's basically it for this video.